Now, for the very first time in American history, a sitting president's DOJ has indicted his top political rival ahead of a presidential campaign.
Very sadly, we're a nation in decline. This has been going on for 7 years. They can't stop because it's election interference at the highest level. There's never been anything like what's happened. I'm an innocent man. I'm an innocent person. They had the Mueller hoax, the Mueller report, and that came out, no collusion after 2.5 years. That was set up by Hillary Clinton and Democrats. If they would devote their energies to honesty and integrity, it would be a lot better for our country. They could do a lot better. They could do a lot of great things.
Now, on Truth Social, he also wrote, quote, "The corrupt Biden administration has informed my attorneys that I have been indicted seemingly over the boxes hoax, even though Joe Biden has 1,850 boxes at the University of Delaware, additional boxes in Chinatown in D.C., more boxes at the UPenn Biden Center, and documents strewn all over his garage floor where he parks his Corvette, and which is secured by only a garage door that is paper thin and open much of the time." He continues, quote, "I have been summoned to appear at the federal courthouse in Miami on Tuesday at 3 p.m. I never thought it possible that such a thing could happen to a former president of the United States who received far more many votes than any sitting president in the history of our country and is currently leading by far all candidates, both Democrat and Republican, in the polls of the 2024 presidential election. I am an innocent man. This is indeed a dark day for the United States of America. We are a country in serious and rapid decline, but together we'll make America great again." Now, President Trump has been indicted on 7 counts, that much we know, all related to his handling of those classified documents and, quote, what we call process crimes, obstruction of justice. Meanwhile, absolutely no charges against Joe Biden, even top secret classified documents from as far back as his time as senator. That turned up in multiple locations, utilized by Joe, including an unsecured office building in D.C. and Biden's very own garage. Apparently, mishandling top secret documents is okay if you're a Biden or a Clinton or, I guess, a Democrat for that matter. Hillary mishandled America's secrets on an unsecured private server that we were told was likely hacked by foreign countries, and then she attempted to cover her tracks by deleting 33,000 emails, wiping hard drives on computers off with something called bleach bit, kind of acid washing the hard drives, and then, of course, destroying phones and Blackberries with hammers and removing SIM cards. But according to Jim Comey, no reasonable prosecutor would bring charges against Hillary Clinton. Now, of course, it is a very different story when it comes to Trump. He is now facing multiple charges because of a few documents from his own presidency stored in a secure room at Mar-a-Lago with a padlock on the door. By the way, I'll say about this room, a room that the FBI previously had access to, unfettered access, and as a matter of fact, had the opportunity to remove items if they wanted to. The only thing they requested was to put a second lock on the door, a padlock. That was complied with by the Trump people down at Mar-a-Lago. Meanwhile, Joe Biden can store similar documents in a box in a wide-open garage. Nobody seems to care. And let's not forget about the 2016 allegations of bribery against Joe Biden from the, quote, trusted confidential human source that even the Obama-Biden administration ended up paying on occasion. According to FoxNews.com, this source detailed conversations with a Burisma executive to the FBI. This executive reportedly referred to Hunter as dumb, but, quote, had to pay the Bidens because Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin was investigating Burisma, and it would be difficult. How difficult it would be to enter the U.S. market in the midst of that investigation. Now, that was, of course, the very same Ukrainian prosecutor that Biden ultimately demanded be fired by leveraging $1 billion taxpayer dollars. The source claimed that a $5 million payment was directed to Joe Biden and another $5 million payment to Hunter Biden. But as FoxNews.com reports, these payments, they weren't direct payments. Instead, they were made, quote, through so many different bank accounts that investigators would not be able to unravel this for at least 10 years. Now, again, these are allegations made by a confidential human source. That's the 1023 form we've been talking about, who has worked with the FBI for years, trusted by the FBI. The FBI paid this individual $200,000 for some of his intel. And yet, as far as we know, the DOJ is not pursuing a case against Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, the big guy, or anybody. Instead, it's his Republican challenger, Donald Trump, who is now facing the wrath of the DOJ surrounding the storage of documents from his very own presidency. Yes, it is a dark day in America. We've said it often. There's no equal justice. There's no equal application of our laws. There's one set of rules for Democrats, another set of rules for Donald Trump and conservatives, and anybody, especially in his orbit. Our system of justice has now been weaponized beyond belief, and this country is in serious trouble. We're going to have breaking coverage of this indictment all throughout the hour and developments as they happen. But let's begin with Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz, who wrote the book Get Trump, and Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, Trial of the Century author. Well, they got him, it seems, Professor. You know, we don't have all the charges. We have 4 of the 7. I'd like to get the specificity within the indictment, as I'm sure you would.
This should be the strongest indictment, the strongest case ever brought against either a former president or a potential presidential candidate since Richard Nixon. If this doesn't meet the Richard Nixon test, you remember Richard Nixon, bribed, paid, destroyed evidence. If this doesn't meet that test, if this is not the strongest case ever, then obviously this will be seen by the public, Democrats and Republicans alike, as partisan justice designed to prevent the people from deciding who the next president should be and giving that decision over to judges, jurors, and prosecutors. That's a violation of the rule of law, a violation of the Constitution. So I wait with bated breath to see whether the indictment in this case meets that very, very high standard of the strongest case in American history. If you're going after a man who's running against the incumbent president, it better be the strongest possible case. So far, I haven't seen evidence of that.
New York Times, Greg, reporting Trump is charged with a total of 7 counts, including willfully retaining national defense secrets in violation of the Espionage Act, making false statements, and an obstruction of justice conspiracy, according to people familiar with the matter. So, on the surface of this, how do you not look at immediately begin the rightful comparison of Hillary Clinton and of course the top secret classified information on her servers that we're told that even they believed that foreign adversaries got a hold of? How do you compare it to that? How do you compare it to documents, top secret classified documents in 4 locations for Joe Biden? If it's an obstruction charge, how do you say the deletion of 33,000 emails and the destruction of devices with hammers is not some type of obstruction charge? And how do you now compare and contrast the treatment of 2 Democrats and 1 Republican?
2 systems of justice, Sean, one for Donald Trump and one for everybody else. Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, is criminalizing a civil dispute over documents that's governed exclusively by a civil statute, the Presidential Records Act. That act means anything created during a presidency, whether it's classified or not, can be maintained by a former president, period. But instead of seeking an injunction, let's say, or production of records in a civil court, let a judge hash it out, Garland chose to bastardize the law by raiding Trump's home and then seeking an indictment today. And it didn't matter that Trump was following the very same standard established by the Department of Justice itself a decade ago in the Bill Clinton case, who kept classified documents. That was a standard endorsed by a federal court in Washington. The president can keep what he wants. But Garland didn't like that, and he doesn't care about the law, so he abandoned his own precedent because it's Donald Trump. This is selective prosecution. It is unequal justice. Yeah, it's okay for Hillary to mishandle classified documents, no charges. For Joe Biden to do the same. But if Donald Trump does it, it's a high crime.